Thank you for tuning in to LeadDeveloper.com, where we simplify complex property development feasibilities, investment analysis, and everything real estate. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, our Google Sheets-based feasibility suite streamlines the toughest aspects of real estate. Lead Developer Feasibility Suite is trusted by thousands in over 17 countries. Our tools cover everything from quick assessments to detailed cash flow projections and more. Sign up today at LeadDeveloper.com for unlimited free access to our expanding library of real estate tools. No credit card needed. Plus, get full support through Edge with step-by-step guidance, exclusive courses, and resources designed for your success. Turn numbers into narratives that win over investors and lenders. Join Lead Developer now.
Hey everyone, welcome back. We're going to be taking a deep dive today into property development risks.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got this really cool insider's guide to kind of walk us through it.
A good one.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of people who are thinking about getting into property development, they get really excited by, the potential rewards.
Absolutely.
But, you really need to go in with your eyes wide open and understand, the risks involved.
Eyes wide open.
Yep.
That's the key, right?
Right.
Because every investment has risk.
Mm-hmm.
And property development, it's no different.
Right.
You really have to have a solid strategy in place.
Yeah.
It can't just be hope.
Yeah.
It's got to be strategy and execution.
Absolutely. And, this guide really kicked off by hammering home the point that, real estate is inherently uncertain.
Right.
You've got supply and demand constantly fluctuating. You've got market timing, which can make or break a project. And then you've got to try to, align your development costs with what buyers or renters are actually willing to pay at the end of the day.
It's a bit of a puzzle.
Yeah, it is definitely a puzzle. And one of the things that this guide talks about that I thought was really interesting was they brought up this case in Melbourne where a politician made a decision to rezone a piece of land.
Oh, wow.
And it totally blindsided some developers who had been, banking on that land being zoned a certain way.
So they have these plans already in place and then...
Exactly. And it just goes to show how external forces can really shake things up.
Unpredictable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why feasibility study is just so crucial.
This guide talks a lot about feasibility studies. So for someone who's maybe, newer to this world, can you kind of break down what is a feasibility study? What are we actually looking at here? Yeah.
So a feasibility study is basically... It's like looking into the DNA of the project. You're looking at the demographics, you're looking at zoning, you're looking at the environmental impact, all of these things.
And so it's not just like saying, okay, this location looks great, let's just, build it and they will come.
No. You really got to do your homework.
Yeah.
And that's why lenders look for that.
Right.
Because they want to make sure that you've done your research, that it's a sound investment.
So it's not just about convincing yourself that it's a good idea. It's about convincing potential funders, stakeholders, everyone
involved. Stakeholders, exactly.
That this is a solid plan.
Exactly.
Okay, so this guide then dives into some of the major risk factors. We've talked about kind of the overall uncertainty of the market, but they break it down into these categories, location, time investment, all those pesky planning and regulations that we have to deal with, and of course, market cycles.
Yeah. You got to love those regulations.
Right, exactly. And it seems like, it's impossible to escape them.
They're always there.
Yeah. So let's start with location. We always hear location.
Oh, yeah. Always.
But it's more than just, picking a trendy suburb, right?
Right. It really is about understanding the nuances of the area, the demographics, the existing infrastructure, and even the future development plans for that neighborhood.
So even within a desirable area, you could have pockets that are going to perform very differently.
Absolutely. Think about it like, a luxury apartment building might thrive in a city center.
Right.
But it would totally flop in like a quiet suburban area.
That makes sense, yeah.
You gotta align your development with the area.
That's already there.
Exactly.
The direction it's going.
Exactly.
Okay, and then there's the time factor, right? This guide points out that, property development is not a quick flip.
Oh, no. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a marathon. It's a complex process. And, each stage is vulnerable to these market fluctuations and just unforeseen delays.
Absolutely. And that's why you need to be flexible as a developer. You have to be able to adapt to the changing market.
So give me an example. Like how would a developer need to adapt, let's say, midway through a project?
Okay. So let's say you're building a high-end condo building.
Okay.
And suddenly interest rates spike,
Oh, boy.
right? So now you might need to adjust your pricing
Okay.
or offer some different financing
Right,
options.
just to stay competitive.
Exactly, to stay competitive.
Okay, that makes sense.
Keep the project moving.
And, of course, we can't talk about property development without talking about the investment side of things. This guide doesn't shy away from the fact that it requires significant capital.
Absolutely.
And understanding the financing models is really crucial.
Yeah, we're talking about a whole other level of investment than just like buying a single-family home.
Right.
You might be looking at equity partnerships, construction loans, mezzanine financing, all these different things.
It can get complicated.
It can get complicated.
Yeah.
And all of these options have their own risks and rewards.
So it's not just about having a big chunk of cash. It's about knowing how to leverage those different financing tools strategically.
Exactly. You got to put the pieces together.
Yeah.
It's like a financial puzzle.
I like that, a financial puzzle.
Yeah.
This guide also spends quite a bit of time talking about the impact of, government policies, council regulations, all those planning approvals that we hear so much about.
Oh, the dreaded planning approval.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And it seems like it's just a reality of property development, right?
Yeah.
You're not operating in a vacuum.
Yeah, you're operating within a framework
Right.
of rules and regulations.
And sometimes those rules and regulations can be complex and time-consuming, and even, if you fail to comply, it can lead to some pretty hefty, delays or even, project shutdowns.
Oh, absolutely.
So it sounds like working with experienced consultants who really understand the local regulations is essential.
I would say essential.
Yeah.
They're your guides
Okay.
through the regulatory jungle.
I like that.
They help you navigate all the pitfalls and the traps.
And then, of course, we can't forget about market cycles, right? It seems like every industry has these peaks and valleys. How do property developers navigate those ups and downs?
Well, you need to be able to analyze the market,
Okay.
identify what phase of the cycle it's in, and then adjust your strategy accordingly.
So give me an example. Like, if the market is booming, how would a developer's strategy differ from, let's say, a market that's in a downturn?
Okay, so in a booming market, you might be able to get higher prices,
Okay.
but you're also facing more competition.
Right.
And probably rising construction costs.
So it's not all rosy, even when the market's hot.
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
But when the market takes a downturn, then you might have to be more conservative.
Okay.
Really focus on cost containment. And maybe even consider delaying the project.
So it's almost like reading the weather forecast for your development project.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
You got to kind of anticipate those storms and adjust your sales accordingly.
Exactly. Prepare for those storms.
Yeah.
Batten down the hatches.
Exactly. So we've got these big picture risk factors swirling around, but this guy also does a great job of breaking down the risks inherent in each stage of a property development project.
Oh, yeah. It gets granular.
It does. It really helps you zoom in on those potential pitfalls lurking at every turn.
Yeah, because risk isn't static.
Right.
It evolves as your project moves forward.
That's a good point.
So understanding those stage-specific challenges is key.
Yeah, so let's kind of walk through that, starting with project inception, that very first spark of an idea. What kind of risks do developers face at this early stage?
Well, this is where a lot of dreams are born.
Right.
But it's also where crucial mistakes can be made. The biggest risk is a lack of alignment between your vision and the reality of the market.
So it's not just about having a cool idea.
No.
It's about validating that idea against the market's appetite. Exactly.
You can have this amazing concept for like a luxury eco resort.
Okay.
But if there's no demand for that
Right.
in your location, you're gonna fail.
You're setting yourself up for failure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you avoid that? I mean, how do you do that validation?
Market research.
Okay.
You really got to understand your target audience, their needs, their desires, their pain points.
Their pain points, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so that's project inception. Now let's move into the pre-construction phase. I imagine this is where things start to get real.
Oh, yeah.
And the risks maybe escalate a little bit.
The stakes get higher.
Yeah.
You're moving from concept to concrete plans. And I think one of the biggest risks here is failing to secure the necessary property options or those conditional purchases.
Oh, yeah.
So imagine you spend months refining your plans.
Right.
And then the land you want is no longer available.
Or the terms have changed.
Yeah. You got to have that locked down.
So you're saying that you really need to secure that land before you get too far down the road.
As early as possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
This guide also talks about the importance of rigorous feasibility analysis during pre-construction. Is that different from the initial feasibility study we talked about?
It is. It's an extension of that initial study.
Okay.
But now you're going deeper.
Deeper, okay.
You're looking at site suitability, construction costs, environmental impacts.
Okay.
You're refining your financial projections, exploring different financing options.
So lots of number crunching, lots of due diligence.
A lot of due diligence.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds intense.
It is, but it's necessary. Think of it as like a medical checkup for your project.
Okay.
You're looking for any underlying conditions that could cause problems down the road.
You don't want any surprises.
You don't any surprises.
Right. And then, of course, we have the construction phase. I mean, this is where I imagine things can really get hairy.
Construction, this is where the rubber meets the road. You've got all these different factors at play.
Right.
Contractors, subcontractors, material costs, weather delays, unforeseen site conditions. It's a lot to manage.
So many moving parts.
So many moving parts.
This guide mentions that construction cost overruns are a major risk.
Oh, huge.
How can developers mitigate that?
Well, one strategy is to use fixed price contracts with your builders.
Okay, so you're locking in a price up front.
Exactly. That way you're protected from any unexpected price hikes.
Okay.
Another strategy is to have a contingency fund. Just in case.
Just in case those unexpected expenses pop up.
Exactly.
So it sounds like meticulous planning and budgeting are really crucial.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But you also need a good project management team in place.
Right, to oversee everything.
To oversee everything. Think of them as the conductors of an orchestra.
Okay.
Making sure all the different instruments are playing in harmony.
I like that. Yeah, so you've got your team, you've got your budget, you've got your plan in place. You've made it through construction. The building is complete. Are the risks over at this point?
Not quite.
Okay.
Now you face the challenge of market absorption.
So that's essentially how quickly can you sell or lease your units?
Exactly.
Okay.
What if the market cools down
Right.
after you've finished construction?
You could be in trouble.
You could be stuck with the units you can't sell.
And I imagine at the prices that you were hoping for.
Right, exactly.
This guide mentions branding and market positioning as important factors during this stage. Why is that?
You need to stand out from the crowd.
Okay.
Especially in a competitive market.
Mm.
You need a strong brand identity.
Yeah.
And a marketing strategy
Right.
that highlights the unique features of your property.
So it's not enough to just build a great building.
No, you got to tell a story.
You got to tell a story.
Yeah, create a buzz.
Yeah.
Get people excited.
And make people want to be there.
Exactly.
Whether it's, living there or working there.
Makes them feel like it's something special.
Right. Something that they can't find anywhere else.
Right.
Okay. So we've talked about the risks inherent in each stage of property development. This guide does a fantastic job of laying it all out.
It really does.
But I'm curious, what are some...
You might avoid that site completely and look for a better one.
So it's about being proactive and using your risk assessment to inform your decisions.
Exactly. You're not just reacting to problems, you're anticipating them.
Okay. What about containing risk? What does that look like?
Containing risk is about setting boundaries and putting measures in place to limit the potential damage.
Okay.
Like using fixed price contracts with builders to avoid those cost overruns.
Right, because then you're not exposed to those fluctuating material costs.
Exactly. You've locked in a price, so you're creating a buffer.
Okay. So you're not completely eliminating the risk, but you're controlling it.
Exactly.
Now, what about minimizing risk? I'm guessing this involves a lot of careful planning and expertise.
It does. Minimizing risk is about reducing the likelihood or the impact of something going wrong.
Okay.
This often means bringing in experienced professionals, like consultants or project managers, people who can spot potential problems and fix them before they become big issues.
So it's like having a seasoned captain navigating your ship through those rough waters.
I like that analogy. They've seen it all. They know where the hidden dangers are.
Right, and they can help you steer clear of them.
Exactly.
Okay. And finally, we have transferring risk. Does this involve insurance or some other kind of risk sharing?
Both insurance is a classic example.
Okay.
You buy insurance to cover things like construction delays, natural disasters, liability claims.
So you're essentially paying someone else to take on that risk.
Right, you're transferring the financial burden to the insurance company.
But of course, insurance doesn't cover every risk.
No, definitely not.
So you still need a solid risk management plan.
Absolutely. It's not a magic bullet.
This guide has been so helpful, walking us through the whole property development process and showing us all the potential problems.
It's a real eye-opener.
But it's also given us ways to think about risk and practical strategies for managing it.
And that's what separates the successful developers from the rest.
Right. They don't just cross their fingers and hope for the best.
No, they plan for it.
They do their research, they build a strong team, and they never stop learning.
That's key. This industry is constantly changing.
So you have to stay ahead of the curve.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive. We've covered so much, from understanding market cycles to mitigating construction risks.
And everything in between.
And it all comes down to this. Don't just hope for the best. Plan for it.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So as you embark on your property development journey, do your due diligence, build a good team, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Great advice.
And never stop learning.
Never stop learning. So you want to dive into those risk management approaches?
Yeah, let's break them down.
Oh.
Avoiding risk. That sounds pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Is it really just like, if a project seems too risky, you just walk away?
Well, it's not always about just like totally avoiding everything.
Okay.
Sometimes it's about making choices to kind of like sidestep certain risks.
Okay, give me an example.
All right, so let's say your feasibility study says there's a high risk of flooding on a site.
Okay.
You might just decide to avoid that site completely and find a different one.
Okay, so it's about being proactive and really using that risk assessment to guide your decisions?
Yeah, you're not just waiting for problems to happen, you're trying to anticipate them.
Okay, that makes sense. What about containing risk?
Containing risk is about setting boundaries.
Okay.
And like putting things in place to kind of limit the damage if something does go wrong.
Give me an example.
Like using fixed price contracts with builders.
Right, to avoid those cost overruns.
Exactly. Yeah, you're locking in a price.
So you're not exposed to those fluctuating material costs and all that.
Exactly. You're creating a buffer.
Okay, so you're not completely eliminating the risk, but you're kind of controlling it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, now how about minimizing risk?
Yeah.
That sounds like it takes a lot of planning and expertise.
It does. Minimizing risk is about trying to reduce the chances of something going wrong.
Okay.
Or reducing the impact if it does.
Okay.
And this often means bringing in experienced professionals.
Okay, like consult.
Yeah, consultants or project managers.
Yeah.
People who've been there, done that, and can spot those problems before they become big issues.
So it's almost like having, a seasoned captain navigating your ship through those stormy waters.
I like that analogy.
Ah.
Yeah. They've seen it all. They know where the hidden dangers are.
Right, and they can help you avoid those.
Exactly.
Okay, and finally we have transferring risk. So is this about insurance? Or some other kind of risk sharing?
Yeah, both. Insurance is the classic example.
Okay.
So you buy insurance to cover things like, construction delays, natural disasters, liability claims.
Okay, so you're basically paying someone else to take on that risk.
Exactly. You're transferring that financial burden to the insurance company.
But insurance doesn't cover every risk, right?
Oh, no, definitely not.
You still need a solid risk management plan in place.
Absolutely. Insurance is not like a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Right, it's not a magic bullet.
No.
Okay, well, this guide has been fantastic. It's really walked us through that whole property development process, shown us all those potential problems.
Yeah, it's been a good one.
But more importantly, it's given us a framework for how to think about risk and some practical strategies.
And that's what separates the successful developers from the rest.
Right. They don't just, cross their fingers and hope for the best.
No.
They actually plan for it. They do their research, they build a strong team, and they never stop learning.
They're always evolving.
Exactly. And this industry is constantly changing, so you got to stay ahead of the curve.
For sure.
Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive. We've covered so much, from understanding market cycles to, mitigating construction risks to securing the right financing.
A lot of great information.
And it all comes down to this: don't just hope for the best plan for it.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So as you're, embarking on your property development journey,
Yeah.
do your due diligence, build a good team, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Absolutely.
And never stop learning.
Never stop learning.
All right, well, that wraps up our deep dive into property development risks. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, happy developing.
Happy developing